Hey everybody, Scott Spreitzer here from DocSports.com, and welcome to our report. It is Friday, July 20th, 2018, and if it's a Friday and it's summertime, you know what that means. It is Football Friday. Big 12 Conference preview from a Vegas perspective coming up in just a minute. If you've yet to become a member over at DocSports.com, it's easy to do. You click on the link below the video, set yourself up for a free $60 account. Don't forget about the early bird college and pro football packages and my NFL preseason package, all available right now over at DocSports.com, and check out the discounts on those packages. We go into this season on a 101 and 67, 60% run in college football, plays released online over the past couple years. Also 58% run last 300 NFL plays released online over the past couple of years. And again, this will be my first year where I'm exclusive at DocSports.com for football. All the packages are up right now. Friday, the games we got going, we've got a CFL play going on Friday. We've got a 7-star CFL for Saturday. Both plays available at DocSports.com right now. 98 and 65 long-term CFL run. Also, Major League Baseball, we will be in action on Friday. We didn't play the Cardinals-Cubs game yesterday, but in action on Friday, and 2 plays at least, including a total, will be available on Friday at DocSports.com. The baseball available after 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. All right, let's get to the Big 12 Conference preview. We're using Westgate Superbook odds. Basically, they're saying it's a 5-team race in this year's Big 12. Oklahoma at 4-5, Texas 5-2, TCU, West Virginia, both at 6-1, Oklahoma State at 8-1. After that, the next best or next lowest odds are the Iowa State Cyclones at 25-1. Oklahoma, the Chalk, have their question marks. They only got a couple of guys vying for quarterback to take over for Baker Mayfield. Lincoln Riley, I'm sure, would like Kyler Murray behind center for the Sooners this entire season. He's got the legs, he's got the skates, and he can make guys miss as far as opposing defenses. He can also create and make more time for the passing game for guys to get open. But he'd love to have Murray out there because he's got a fantastic running game, as you know by now if you follow the Sooners. And as far as the receiving core, excellent. Extremely good receiving core. The recruits are all in place, obviously. And Lincoln Riley wants to do that short passing game, a lot of dumps, ball control type passing game. But it's going to be awfully tempting to go deep more than a time or two during the course of a football game to stretch opposing defenses. As long as Murray can handle that with his arm, I think you'll see Lincoln Riley open it up a little bit when he gets a chance. The offensive line's going to be terrific. But it's a defense for the Sooners that concerns me. And let's not forget last year, they had that mid-season stretch, I guess you could call it, where they had like 5 or 6 games where they absolutely could not stop anyone. Then they played well for a couple of games on the defensive side of the football, and then that terrible mid-season defense showed up again in the bowl game against the Georgia Bulldogs. I really do believe with Mike Stoops still as defensive coordinator there, that this is a defense that is probably a year away from being a national title contending defense. They're young, the recruits are great. Lincoln Riley, of course, full year behind him now, and I think that defense is a year away. The schedule, not real easy. Road games include in the conference at Iowa State, TCU. They got that game at Texas Tech, should have no problem there, and at West Virginia. Over-under wins totals on 3 of those road games, the Cyclones, TCU, and West Virginia. For those teams, 6.5, 8.5, and 7.5, respectively. And a loss to any one of those 3 teams on the road, Iowa State, TCU, or West Virginia, would not shock anybody. K-State and Oklahoma State, not easy home games, obviously. And then, of course, you got the neutral site game against the Longhorns thrown into the mix. When I look at the OU defense for 2018, the fact that Mike Stoops is the DC, I think OU is going to lose 2 Big 12 games this season. And I will say this, the closest team to Oklahoma in my power ratings is TCU. On paper, I do make Oklahoma 6 points better than Texas Christian at this point of the summer on a neutral slate. Now, Texas, West Virginia, TCU, and Oklahoma State could all be thorns in the side of the Sooners, obviously. The good news for Oklahoma, really only West Virginia has that true, proven, returning starting quarterback, that, of course, being Will Greer. The biggest issue for West Virginia is their serious lack of depth, and I'm certainly not the first one to point out those issues. And they wrap up a difficult schedule, by the way, West Virginia. Final 4 games of the season over just about a 20-21 day period reads like this. November 3rd at Texas, November 10th, home TCU, November 17th at Oklahoma State, and then 6 days after the Cowboys game, they've got to host the Oklahoma Sooners. attrition, the lack of depth, and that slate for West Virginia, which also includes roadies at Iowa State, homer against Kansas State, not to mention a non-conference game that could be a little bit interesting, although they're a decent-sized favorite over Tennessee. But it keeps us from calling West Virginia in conference play our dark horse. In fact, we'd never like to take 6-1 to win the Big 12 with the issues I just mentioned for any team, including West Virginia. So they will not be our dark horse, and those are the reasons why for us in this year's Big 12. Listen, I mentioned Texas. They basically have, two quarterbacks vying for the job. One of their two quarterbacks has to step up and be a difference maker for Herman and the Longhorns. The offensive line should be better this year. The running game should be improved almost by default over last year. And the receiving core is, guys, extremely talented for the Texas Longhorns. I do like the talent on defense despite a few key losses, especially some losses in the secondary. But they do have strong schemes, this coaching staff on defense for the Texas Longhorns, and they did make nice strides last year. I expect that defensive momentum to continue. The opener is in Maryland, and that's not a gimme. Just see last year's results. And, of course, USC going to be tough also in non-conference play, but it is Big 12 conference action that we are concerned about, and the Longhorns have 4 games in as many weeks that starts outside of Big 12 play against USC, followed in conference play at home against TCU, at Kansas State, and the battle in Dallas with Oklahoma. They won't escape that run of 4 games unscathed as far as I'm concerned, folks. They also have a roadie, by the way, in Stillwater against Oklahoma State. That's in late October. Their win total, the Longhorns, is set at 8.5. I've got them winning 8 games, losing 3 games in conference play, 1 outside of the conference. Texas at 5-2 is just too short for us. That leaves us with who can win this outside of Oklahoma to TCU at 6-1, Oklahoma State at 8-1, Iowa State, true dark horse at 25-1. Out of those 3 teams, we're going to side with the TCU Horned Frogs. The schedule is the most inviting out of the teams with single-digit odds to win this conference. And yeah, they do have Ohio State and Arlington to wrap up non-conference play, and that's followed the very next week by a trip to Austin, Texas to start off Big 12 play. But really, their next toughest 2-game stretch, 2 tough games in a row, isn't until November, and that's Kansas State with West Virginia on the tail end of that 2-game stretch. And as we mentioned earlier, that West Virginia team could very well be wearing thin by then. In all likelihood, TCU goes 7-2 in conference play, but a fortunate bounce here or there could come their way, and we're talking about the potential of an 8-1 conference season. By the way, Horned Frogs over-under 8.5, 8 wins for me for TCU. That's worst-case scenario. If Robinson is in gear behind center, and then you got a defense that's an absolute beast, I think they got a real good shot to challenge Oklahoma. They have 5 conference homers this year, and 2 of their road games are against Kansas and Baylor. 2 wins there. So this is our dark horse, if you will. 6-1 is tough to call a dark horse, but because of the odds, we're not given much of an opportunity to look deep into the conference. And again, I'm not going to step out yet and say that Iowa State is your dark horse at 25-1. We like TCU over the other candidates for the distinction of dark horse, or at least the team to best challenge Oklahoma in the Big 12. And that is our Big 12 preview. Free baseball in just a minute. We will have our next college football conference preview next Friday. That'll be July 27th, so you'll want to be sure to check that out. And, of course, we're here each and every day of the week, 7 days a week, with a free play, usually in baseball, and an update on what's going on from the bettors, the sharp side of things overnight going into the next day's games. Free play in just a second in baseball. Again, real quick, Friday. CFL action going Friday and Saturday. Both plays available right now, including that big 7-star main event, 11-3 run with those plays going back the last couple of years. Major League Baseball will be posted after 11:30 a.m. Eastern on Friday. It includes at least 1 side and 1 total that we got going for Friday night. Let's get to Friday's free play in baseball. We're going to lay the price here with Toronto. We mentioned the card's pretty chalky, but Toronto minus the money line price over Baltimore. Right now it's around $1.50. It's a big price, but Sam Gaviglio over Bundy, and Gaviglio's been really tough at home this season for Toronto. That'll be our free play. Don't forget, if you like what you see, click on the thumbs up button. Be sure to subscribe. We appreciate those who have done so thus far. We're back Saturday morning, 4 a.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. Pacific. We'll not only have our free play in baseball, we'll also have more in-depth analysis on that free play. That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed the Big 12 preview. Hope you agree with our opinions of the Big 12. Right back here Saturday morning. Let's put Friday in the win column. I'm Scott Spreitzer, DocSports.com.